So everybody, welcome to Compass Points. Today we have Annette Atkinson, who's an herbalist and is a graduate from the Holistic Cannabis Academy. And she continues to study the benefits of CBD and the other 100 plus cannabinoids found in the hemp plant. Every day we hear more and more anecdotal stories of miraculous success in relieving pain, anxiety, and many other conditions affecting our ability to live our best life. In recent years, the regulation of studying the effects of CBD and other cannabinoids have loosened up, and U.S. clinical trials are now happening. CBD is an alternative and holistic health service, non-psychoactive, and can be used to treat a long list of health issues such as pain management, anxiety, PTSD, depression, inflammation, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, sleep disorders, and much more. So with that said, Annette, the floor is yours. Please educate us on the benefits of CBD.
Well, let's see if we can make that happen.
And let's also make sure that everybody goes on mute now. We do encourage questions. So if you do have a question during the presentation, just simply unmute yourself.
All right, I think it's working. So as Mary said, my name's Annette Atkinson, and I am a holistic cannabis herbalist. Before we go, I need a few disclaimers that we've already seen. I am technologically challenged, and I apologize in advance if we have other snafus, but I'm trying to get through it. Also, there's a little bit of legal that I have to go over before we get into the topic. All content in this presentation, including text, images, audio, or other formats, were created for informational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard or seen here. I'm not a doctor, don't claim to be one, don't play one on this video. The information provided here has not been evaluated by the FDA. Products discussed in this presentation are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. That's what the lawyers say we need to say. I also like people to know that I do have financial interest in this space. I'm the owner of Highway 420 Bremerton and Highway 420 Silverdale. Those are regulated marijuana stores in Kitsap County with medical endorsements. I'm also the owner of Arenda CBD. We opened up in the Kitsap Mall in November 2019. Unfortunately, with COVID, we did have to close that space, but we have reopened up on Clear Creek next to Highway 420. And right now we're open on just Wednesdays and Sundays from 10 to 6, but I'm more than happy to meet up with people. This plant and the cannabinoids and CBD are absolutely amazing. They've changed my life, and I like to think that they'll change others' lives as well. All right, why we're here. What is CBD? Well, its real name is cannabidiol. That's the full name. CBD is the shortened abbreviation. Now, all that CBD is it is a naturally occurring compound that's found in the cannabis plant. It's made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms that form a molecule, and then we extract that molecule, that CBD molecule, from what's considered the flower or the bud of the cannabis plant. That's a picture of what that flower looks like. Now, some of you may already be scratching your heads going, wait a minute, CBD is not cannabis, it's not marijuana, it's not psychoactive. It's the hemp plant, right? Well, that's true, but some terms have gotten pretty confusing with the legalization of this plant and where we're standing. So we're going to go through just a few terms. I know there's a lot going on this slide, but I think we can get it down pretty basic. And that's that cannabis is the scientific name for the plant, and marijuana and hemp are just other names for that cannabis plant. Okay, they're all the same. And from that cannabis plant, we extract compounds. And when you look down in the bottom left-hand corner, it says cannabinoids. That's one type of compound that comes out of the cannabis plant. There's about 100 and some that they've identified now. CBD is one, and THC is another one. THC is the cannabinoid that comes from the plant that we associate with that psychoactive high, that when we think of marijuana, it's really that THC that we're thinking of. But all of these cannabinoids are being studied for their medicinal benefits, and we'll see a couple of them a little bit later as well. In this slide, what this is showing you in that middle circle is all of the different cannabinoids, and they've been studied to have some kind of positive effect on different centers of our body. So in the middle circle, it's putting together pain centers, your intestinal, your neurological, and then as you move out, showing the different cannabinoids, including CBD, that will affect that area of your body. And when you go to the very outer circle, it's talking about very specific conditions within that center of the body that can be affected by those cannabinoids. Pretty much, we now believe that cannabinoid medicine, including CBD, can affect every part of the body. So again, we go back to this chart. Marijuana and hemp are the same thing. They're both cannabis. From that cannabis plant, we can extract compounds. One type of compound being those cannabinoids where we find CBD, but also terpenes. Terpenes are another compound found in the plant that are also found in all of our plants in the world. And one specific terpene is linalool. And if you've ever done any aromatherapy, a lot of times we'll get lavender because lavender smells is relaxing to us, kind of lifts our mood. Well, that's that terpene linalool that's coming out of the lavender that's making you feel that way. And whether it comes from lavender or it comes from cannabis, it's still the same compound, that terpene linalool. Myrcene is just another terpene that we can find in plants around us. It's found in mangoes, lemongrass, as well as cannabis. And it's extremely sedating, actually makes us feel lazy. Excuse me. So whether we're getting it in the cannabis plant or we're getting it from eating mangoes, that terpene myrcene is going to relax us and is part of the medicine that comes from the plant.
Annette?
What? Yeah.
You put your microphone a little back where you just had it, because when you moved it, yeah.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that close, but when you just moved it, it lowered your volume.
Okay, how's that?
Great.
All right. So one last time, marijuana and hemp are just two terms for the same plant, cannabis. From that plant, we can extract compounds. One type of compound is a terpene. Another type is a cannabinoid. Within that cannabinoid compound style is where we find CBD. Now, I keep saying that marijuana and hemp are both cannabis, but the government has given us what I consider an arbitrary definition, but it is the legal one that separates these two words now. And that is the amount of THC. And remember, THC is the cannabinoid associated with that psychoactive high. So if this plant, this cannabis plant, is growing with 0.3% or more THC, the government defines it as marijuana. If it's growing with 0.3% or less THC, the government defines that plant as hemp. A much better definition, in my opinion, and one that's been around for centuries, is based on why that plant is growing. So if the cannabis plant is growing and focused on the stalks, we're trying to get really strong stalks, then we'd call the plant industrial hemp. And that's where you'd find the ability to make paper, textiles, clothing, ropes, and that kind of thing. If we were focused on harvesting seeds from the plant, we would also call it hemp. And that's where you get hemp oil and hemp seeds. And you can buy hemp seeds in your regular grocery store. Those have been legal for quite some time. They don't contain CBD in them, so we don't want to get that confused. A lot of people think they do, but they don't. The hemp seed is, though, very nutritional. It has great fatty acids, the omega-3s and 6s, very nourishing to use in cosmetics. So it has a lot of benefit, but it's not the CBD. So we'd call that plant hemp. If we were focused on harvesting, oh, sorry, there's a really big plane in front of my house. If we were focused on the plant growing for the flowers or the leaves, and the flowers, remember, is where normally we would extract those compounds like CBD, we'd call it marijuana. So there's that arbitrary definition given by the government based on how much THC there is. There's a more logical definition based on why we grow the plant, but we are confined to that legal definition from the government. All right, any questions on that part so far, the definition of the cannabinoids, where CBD comes from? All right, then we'll just keep going. These terms right here are something that you're going to find and have to make a decision about on any CBD product that you're purchasing. The CBD product will either be full spectrum, broad spectrum, or isolate. And what that means is when we were talking about that whole plant and how we get all of those cannabinoids and terpenes out of it, if you're buying a CBD product that says full spectrum, it's going to contain these other cannabinoids and terpenes and other botanical properties that grew inside the plant. If that product, that CBD product, says broad spectrum on it, it just means that they kept everything in the plant except the THC. Remember the psychoactive one, they threw that out, but kept everything else. And then isolate, of course, means they took the plant, threw out everything except the CBD and kept only that. There's several different reasons for using any one of these products, not the least of which is that it is THC that is drug tested for. So if anybody is subjected to drug testing, you want to stay away from the full spectrum products. But even with a full spectrum product, if you're not worried about drug testing, remember there's such a minuscule amount of THC in there, that under 0.3%, that it really isn't enough of that compound to cause a high. But there's a lot of reasons that we believe having that small amount of THC can be beneficial in helping the CBD and the other cannabinoids work in the body. Isolates are used a lot to increase the amount of CBD in a product so that you could have a full spectrum product that had all those parts of the plant, but the plant didn't grow with enough CBD in it, so they'll take some isolate and make it more potent. Also, isolate in any fashion is much easier to test and get efficacy at because we've separated it out. So when you use CBD only as an isolate, you know that that is what's affecting your body, and it's not something else like a different cannabinoid or a different terpene. In holistic health and plant medicine, there's a lot of talk about herbal compounding and the thought that the whole plant knew how to grow and that all its parts together provide a more synergistic benefit to us than if we were to isolate all those parts. And in the cannabinoid medicine field, they've come up with a term for that called the entourage effect. So when you're talking to people, you'll hear that a lot, and they'll say, full spectrum products are the best because of that entourage effect, that all of those cannabinoids, botanicals, and terpenes are important to help make our bodies the best they can be. So this is where I throw myself under the bus a little bit and say that I thought all of this medicinal marijuana and cannabinoid medicine was a bunch of snake oil for a long time. But over the last 7 years of studying this plant and all of these cannabinoids, I begin to understand how this plant can affect so many different systems in our body, why it can affect cancer and Alzheimer's and PTSD and epilepsy and Parkinson's. It's because of this. And I know, again, there's a lot going on this slide, but the bottom line is that we have systems in our bodies. We have digestive system, we have an immune system, we have a nervous system. Well, in the 80s, they discovered we also have a system. They named it the endocannabinoid system. Cannabinoids, that's what CBD is. Our body has receptors meant to take in cannabinoids. And they believe that this system, actually, you see those receptors, the CB1 and CB2, are throughout our entire body. So when we take in cannabinoids, CBD or THC or one of the other 100 of them, they either fit right into a receptor and activate it, or they modulate the receptor throughout to signal other parts of the body. It's pretty amazing. And when I started to understand about this endocannabinoid system and about these receptors is when I realized it does make sense that cannabis and cannabinoids affect everything in the human body. This slide just shows that it doesn't matter where the cannabinoid comes from. In the center, you see the phytocannabinoids that we've been talking about, the THC, the CBD. They act on those endocannabinoid receptors. Just like on the right, synthetic cannabinoids, they now create them in a lab. They create a synthetic THC called Marinol. A doctor can actually prescribe that for you, and it acts on those cannabinoid receptors the same as the endogenous ones that are made in our bodies. Excuse me. Our bodies make cannabinoids, the same type of molecule that's made by that plant or that lab. When it's made in our bodies, there's one named anandamide. It was identified and called the bliss molecule because it seems to affect our happy receptors, our serotonin and our dopamine. But no matter where it comes from, again, it acts on those receptors, and that system regulates other processes in our bodies. So I'm going to play, hopefully, a little short clip about the endocannabinoid system, and hopefully it will just give you a small overview of what this system is and what they think it does in our bodies.
Nothing has started on my screen. Are you still with me in that?
I'm sorry, Mary, what?
There's nothing playing on my screen. You were trying to play a YouTube video. Nothing's playing. It's just your slide.
Same here.
Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What was that, Mary?
Your YouTube URL is not playing.
Oh, well, fabulous. So you're all just sitting there listening to nothing and seeing nothing?
Correct.
Okay, so, awesome. That was that technologically challenged person that I am. So I'm not sure how to fix that either. So unfortunately, I guess.
You can send me the URL, and we're recording this, and I can include that for folks to watch afterwards.
Okay. Sounds good. Sorry about that. All right, am I still sounding okay?
Yes.
All right. So what that little video should have shown you is that they believe the endocannabinoid system is the control center for the rest of the body. And they didn't discover it until the late 80s, so we continue to learn a lot about it. But the bottom line is that if it's the control center that sends out signals to all those other systems and helps keep our bodies in balance or in homeostasis, then it starts to make more and more sense as to how this plant and these cannabinoids can affect all of these different conditions. It is absolutely amazing. And that's when, once you realize that this system is in our bodies, it starts to make a lot more sense and doesn't sound like hogwash and snake oil. It sounds like that it could be true. I'm guessing I'll try this with the YouTube video not working. Let's see if this comes up. Did my screen change?
No,
You don't see the PubMed site either?
no, we do not.
All right, fabulous. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know that either. So I will just tell you that without all that stuff at the end, there's a website called pubmed.gov. It's one of my favorite sites on the web. And what it is it's a combination of scientific journals and studies that are put together. It's not like Wikipedia, it's a vetted site. And when you put in the word CBD to see if there are studies done, that comes up with about 8,000 studies on CBD, scientific studies. And doctors always tell me that it doesn't matter how many studies there are if they're not clinical trials. Well, it's also incorrect that there's not clinical trials, because when you type in CBD and clinical trial, it comes up with almost 500. There are studies. There is proof that this works for people. That site is also a great place to look at any medication that a doctor's prescribing for you. And if you have a condition or a disease, you can type it into that website and find out what the newest scientific studies to help with whatever your condition is. It's amazing. I used it when my brother was undergoing chemotherapy, and I actually found a study in Israel that had the exact same chemotherapy drug that he was taking, and how CBD increased the efficacy of his chemotherapy drug. It's amazing. So pubmed.gov. Is there any questions at this time?
There is one question before we go into this next screen, and that is, can you please explain to the folks on the seminar with us how your stores operate? Highway 420 is in Bremerton and Silverdale. Arenda CBD is a separate standing store. You go into Arenda, you don't walk into a cannabis store, etc.
So Mary, actually at the end, I will actually show that and talk about it. So it is coming up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. So we'll get into, oh yeah, Sharon.
Excuse me, Annette.
Yeah.
I have one question on the hemp. Now there's industrial hemp, and then there's hemp grown specifically for CBD. Am I correct?
So yes and no. Again, all the same plant, but we use those terms, and people would focus on when it's being grown for that agricultural purpose, that they would call it industrial hemp. And when we're focusing now on growing the hemp to extract CBD from, that they would just call it hemp. Yes.
So basically it's the same thing.
All the same.
Got it.
Marijuana plant, cannabis plant, hemp
Right.
plant. It's just the reason that we grow them and what we focus on, but the plant's the same.
Okay.
All right. So some of the conditions and why and how CBD works. This CBD, I use it for inflammation. I have terrible arthritis, no cartilage in one knee and one hip. And CBD tends to be able to block inflammation molecules. And I've replaced ibuprofen with CBD. I used to take between 200 and 800 milligrams of ibuprofen. I don't take any anymore. I take CBD only. It's changed my life. It's amazing. When it comes to our mood, we talked about our mood centers. CBD and other cannabinoids actually affect and have modulating properties with our dopamine and serotonin receptors. Those things are what modulate our moods. Dementia, all forms of dementia. There's just fantastic studies coming out of Israel, great efficacy on helping people in all kinds of ways with their dementia. This picture just always makes me think of a family I had come in and talk to me. It was a mom and her 2 daughters. And this picture described exactly what they said they were going through with their mom. In the morning, she'd be pretty good. By the afternoon, she was confused. By the evening, she was actually violent and aggressive. And they just didn't know what to do. So we got her on a CBD regimen. It wasn't 24 hours later that daughter called me and told me that her mom had had the best night she'd had that they could remember. It works really well at reducing that aggression that comes on. They didn't have any really evidence that she was becoming less confused or that we were reversing the problems, which there are some studies that indicate that that's possible, taking the buildup out of the brain so that you actually gain back some things you lost when you went into the dementia. But it certainly worked for them in the area of that aggression. This is another one yeah.
While you're talking about these different, you have arthritis and it was helping with inflammation and the dementia, etc. There's different forms in which you could take CBD. There's a capsule, a tincture, etc. So can you kind of talk about that as you're talking about these? Maybe you use a balm, etc.
Yeah, actually that's coming up too. I'm going to go over all of those in I think it's the next portion of the presentation. So yes, I will talk about all of those different methods of administration. Yeah, Sharon.
Excuse me again. Back to inflammation just for a second. Ibuprofen, good stuff, and you can take up to 800 milligrams 3 times a day with food, of course, but people don't realize that it has a very large effect on your blood pressure. And I can attest to that. Mine is, like 120/70. And when I was taking just 600 twice a day, it went up 20 points. And it's hard on your kidneys too. So I'm a nurse, and that's something I really didn't realize myself. That's it.
What were you taking?
Ibuprofen.
Oh, right.
Twice a day.
Yeah.
My blood pressure shot up 20 points consistently.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that in a minute too, the drug interactions that can happen, because CBD actually can be, in a lot of cases, really positive, interacting with other drugs. So I do have a couple of slides about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So Larry here, he was a police captain that was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and he agreed to allow a documentary to come in and film him the first time he tried cannabis for his Parkinson's. And you actually watch him live on the video in about a matter of 5 minutes, go from this very rigid, tight person to super relaxed and able to speak without slurring. Also, again, amazing. CBD studies on the ability to affect neurodegenerative conditions is really impressive. And if you have or know someone that suffers from that, highly recommend looking into CBD. We also always hear about veterans and how they're fighting for their rights to use cannabinoid medicine. Lots of great studies. We've already talked about how it affects certain things that are associated with PTSD. It also has and shows some ability to block certain memory reconsolidation. And certainly with PTSD, that's one of our problems, is that that memory is being, causing problems for us. This is one of those things we were talking about. I love this little cartoon because it is the way with a lot of Western medicine. They give you one drug, that causes a side effect, they must give you another drug to offset that side effect. Then they give you another drug for that side effect, and on and on and on in this crazy circle. When my brother was undergoing chemotherapy, that seemed to happen all the time. He'd get one drug that would cause him to be nauseous, that would get another drug, cause him to be constipated. Anyway, on and on and on. CBD and other cannabinoids just don't seem to be that way. The side effects seem to be more positive. So, for example, when we were talking about me, I take it for that arthritis. As a side effect, I'm a little less postal. I'm a little happier. I'm a little more relaxed. The side effects in many cases are beneficial. And even those drug interactions, like Sharon was talking about, blood pressure is a good example. For people who have high blood pressure, you may find that adding CBD in with blood pressure medication can reduce it in a synergistic way. Again, I'm not a doctor, but there are people that show that. But on the other side, again, with my brother who had low blood pressure because of cancer, CBD could be harmful to him because it lowered his blood pressure even more. So everybody's body is different, right? We need to look at that. So Mary was talking about all the different products, and it is difficult to decide because there are so many options. Once you decide that you want to try this, where do you start? What do you look for? What questions do we need to ask? So unlike Western medicine, where you're going to get a prescription from your doctor and you're going to go to a pharmacy and they're going to just give it to you, you don't have to think about these questions, how much to take, how potent it is. But unfortunately, most of our doctors still today can't talk to us about cannabis medicine or cannabinoid medicine because of the legal problems with it. There are a few really great doctors that are very educated in this space in cannabinoid medicine that I recommend people to. But for the most part, you're going to have to do your own studying and find an expert that you can trust that can help you and guide you through finding a product. So let's look at a few of these things. Dosage is the first one. You need to determine how much of a product to take, right? This is a good example right here. They're looking at a tincture and they talk about titration, that we're going to start with a half a dropper, that dose. We're going to keep that dose for 7 days. At the end of the 7 days, you reevaluate. Did you get significant benefit? Do you feel way better? If not, then you increase it for another 7 days, reevaluate again, and you can go on and on and on until you start to not get additional benefit from added product. With CBD and all cannabinoids, more is not always better. There is some evidence that suggests that once you hit that optimal, what we call the sweet spot, that you feel way better, that adding more might actually reduce the benefit instead of increase it. So it is important, not that you're going to overdose from CBD. It doesn't act on our body like that, like opiates do. But you do want to find that sweet spot, and it's expensive. So you want to find the least amount that's going to give you the greatest benefit. So that titration idea is really important. This slide is missing a couple things though, because it's talking about volume using a dropper. When you look here, this is 2 tincture bottles. Don't focus on the word sleep and soothe. We'll look at that in a minute, but focus on they're both the same size bottle, but one has 5,000 milligrams of CBD and the other one only has 1,000. Obviously that dropper, half a dropper, is going to be way more potent if I take it out of the 5,000 milligram bottle than if I took it out of the 1,000 milligram bottle. So I recommend that people focus on milligrams instead of size, not a half a dropper as you're dosing, but how many milligrams of active ingredient. In this case, we're talking about CBD, but it could be another active ingredient. It could be a terpene. It could be a different cannabinoid, how much you're taking in. So this chart adds in the idea of dosing it by milligram and also a starting point by size and severity of this symptom. Again, everybody's different, but we need a place to start. So like when I started on my CBD journey with my arthritis, I was like, okay, I'm between a 4 and 5. I have quite a bit of pain. And I'm 100 to 175 pounds. So a good starting point for me, at least to look at how much CBD to take, might be 24 milligrams. And then you still do that titration to find your sweet spot. Does that make sense? Any questions?
I like
All
the
right.
chart.
Oh, go ahead.
I like the chart. That's helpful.
And again, I like to reiterate, it's just a starting point, but at least it's a starting point, right? It gets us to a place. One of the other things that we're looking at, so we've talked about dosing, is ratios. And that's the ratio of active ingredients in the product. Now, this chart itself is showing the ratio of CBD and THC, those two specific cannabinoids. This obviously would be something, these products you'd have to purchase in a marijuana store. But in a marijuana store, they do have like that 18 to 1 or even a 20 to 1. And those products are going to be very similar in effect for you as that full spectrum CBD product. That amount of THC is extremely small, so it's not going to give you a psychoactive high, but it might give you that entourage effect. As you go up this chart, obviously there may be more psychoactivity, but it could be a ratio of CBD and another cannabinoid like CBN. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but so ratio is important. Not only, as I said, ratios of THC to CBD, but here's a product. These are small mints that you just pop in your mouth. They have about 10 or 11 different formulas. This one that's showing is Calm, but they also have one called Energy, one called Focus, Pain Relief. All of those different formulas are going to have the same amount of CBD, that 10 milligrams, but they'll have very different herbal blends and terpene blends. So if you look under the terpene blends here, it lists myrcene and linalool. Those two terpenes we talked about earlier that are very sedating. You wouldn't have terpenes of myrcene and linalool in a product called Energy because it wouldn't give you that effect. So there's a lot of herbal compounding to focus with the CBD and give us other, I don't know, other conditions or help with different things. I use the focus one of this when I have to edit a paper. I have a little ADD sometimes, and I don't know why, but I'm able to stay in a center line and get that paper edited much better than if I don't use it. So I'm not sure how it works, but it does. So another thing we have to talk about is bioavailability, right? How many milligrams of that product you take in that are left to distribute where you need it after your body processes it. This isn't just with cannabinoid medicine, right? This is with our vitamins, with anything we take. When you take it in, you absorb part of it, you metabolize part of it, and you excrete part of it. And what's left is what's bioavailable to help with the condition that you're working on. Here's, I think, a good chart that gives just a general idea of the different methods that you can take CBD in and how bioavailable they will be to your body. Topicals aren't meant to be bioavailable, right? They don't get into our system. They don't get into our blood. They just change local, right? You put a topical on, it changes the localized pain. Hopefully you get relief. CBD works really well for that because we have those cannabinoid receptors in our skin. So that's the reason that CBD topicals tend to work pretty well. but they're not systematic, right? They're not changing the underlying reason that you're having pain. They're just taking care of it for you. Capsules or any other ingestible, that can be chocolate or tea or anything that's going through our digestive system, we're going to eliminate quite a bit of the power. Your bioavailability may only be about 19%. That means if you took 100 milligrams of CBD, you only have 19 or 20 milligrams left to work on your body as you need it because you've metabolized or excreted the rest out. Sublinguals, you'll see a lot of tinctures in the CBD market. That means you're putting something under your tongue, you're holding it there, and hopefully it's going quicker into the bloodstream without going through the digestive system. You get a higher bioavailability. With inhalation, which doesn't just mean smoking, but vaporizing. We now have things very similar to asthma inhalers that you can use, also nasal sprays. Those have an even higher bioavailability than the other methods of administration. There's also now fully transdermal topicals. So unlike this topical that has zero bioavailability, the fully transdermal topicals are meant not to change localized pain, but to get into our bloodstream, and they have upwards of 90% bioavailability. All right, and that's a lot of information. It's going to just go through a few products and show you the things we've talked about so that you know how to look for them. This is a company that does all topicals, Healing Rose out of Massachusetts. And you can see right here one of those things that it's the exact same size container, but one of them has 600 milligrams of CBD, the other one only has 150. Obviously, the ginger one is much more potent. Also, by adding those other compounds, herbal compounding, you're going to have different effects. Menthol itself is going to give you topical relief, even if there was no CBD. And the arnica that's in there in both of these products, arnica is a carrying agent that helps the topical not get into the bloodstream, but get deeper into your tissues to give greater pain relief. Just another topical company where the first company, Healing Rose, used arnica. This company uses emu oil. She also adds in other ingredients for that herbal compounding, and you'll have different effects. Different sizes will come in different strengths. This is one of those fully transdermal items. This is something I use. It's hard to tell, but it's just a little pen, and you twist it, and it puts out what we call a microdose, about 2 milligrams of CBD. And it doesn't relieve pain topically. Remember, my pain's my knee and my hip, but I put it on my wrist where my veins are close to the surface, rub it in, and it gets into my blood. It gets in systemically. There's several kinds of tinctures. And all companies brand just like we brand in anything we're purchasing. So there's certain things that they'll want you to know about them. These people are very much about environment and being organic and regenerative farming. They also, a lot of tinctures don't taste really good. They taste like grass. These people put in some sweetness, make them taste a little better. And they use coconut oil as one of the binders. Excuse me. And that's important because some people are bothered by coconut oil. So it's another thing to look at when you're choosing a product. This product here uses avocado oil. So that might be something that matters to you and your body. They also have different terpenes put in here. This company is another tincture company, and they focus on using those secondary cannabinoids and terpenes. If you look on the bottom, we had talked about ratios. This company does ratios with CBD and other cannabinoids than THC. There's a lot of studies right now showing that CBG together with CBD is more anti-inflammatory than CBD alone, and that CBN and CBD is more sedating. So this company is just doing a lot of studies and looking at the research to find different formulas that can be beneficial to people's different conditions or wants or needs. Capsules is another format. Now, again, we talked about bioavailability. Capsules aren't usually the best because they go through our digestive system. We lose a lot of the power, right? But it's also about what you'll take. I don't like the oils. I wouldn't take them every day. I actually use this product here. I take it just like a vitamin. And it's what's changed my life. Like I said, you can get these in different strengths, different potencies. The one bottle on the left, I believe, is 500 milligrams with 30 capsules in it. So they're about 15, 16 milligrams per capsule. The one on the right has 1,000 milligrams in it, still 30 capsules. So that's about 30, 35 milligrams per capsule.
Annette, can you go back one screen, please?
Yeah. One more?
One more, please.
Yep.
So on the screen, on the right, it says in MCT oil for increased absorption. What is MCT oil?
It's medium chain triglycerides. And it's something we hear a lot about. MCT can come from coconut, like the one before. Theirs is coconut-derived MCT. I'm not exactly fully certain about what that is, but it's a type of oil, and it is that medium chain triglycerides. My favorite product. So chocolate. This is an edible. We infuse it with CBD. But if you notice, it says anandamide. Now, if anybody remembers back quite a few slides ago, anandamide was the first identified endogenous cannabinoid made by our bodies. So anandamide is a cannabinoid like CBD. And they found it in chocolate, very similar molecule. And that's why when you hear people say that eating chocolate makes us happy, they believe it's because of that cannabinoid anandamide that's in the chocolate. So now we have anandamide cannabinoid, CBD, and then you can throw in some hemp seeds and you've got great omegas and vitamins and all kinds of good stuff. Questions?
It's 12:20, just so you know.
Yeah, I keep looking. That's what I keep doing.
And people do have questions about your stores. If there are herbalists there like yourself that can educate them and help them. So why don't we talk to that? Because that's the big question.
Okay, yeah. So here we are. What's it like to go purchase in these stores? This here's pictures of my cannabis stores. The one on the left is Highway 420 Silverdale. The one on the right is Highway 420 Bremerton. And I said earlier that we are a medicinally certified stores. And that means that my staff has gone through some extra education. They're very well versed in the medicinal value of the plant. And remember, you can get CBD in a cannabis store as well as a CBD store. It's the same compound. One thing that is a little actually safer by going into one of these stores is that they're highly regulated. The government controls what we do, so you know the products are safe. Whereas in the CBD market, there's no regulations, and you have to make sure that things are safe by your studying and your due diligence. I'll talk a little bit more right before we end on that. On the left, this was my CBD store at the Kitsap Mall. I loved it, bright, vibrant. That's the one, unfortunately, we had to close. On the right is one of the cabinets where we keep those tinctures that I was showing you. And in the CBD store, and I would say in any CBD store, whether you choose to come to me or not, that they're there for a reason, and it's because they want to educate people. And for the most part, the stores I've gone in do have, when they may not have herbalists, but they have people that have studied and spent time looking into why this plant works. Also the producers, the people that make these products. I encourage people to use the internet, and just there's probably 30 plus cannabis stores in Kitsap County and 2 or 3 CBD stores. If you choose not to come to mine, go on and look at those and see which ones you might feel comfortable at. What are they showing you? What is important to them that might make you feel comfortable in their store?
Annette, let's talk about a little bit about know what to buy and the stigma, breaking down the stigma of walking into a cannabis store.
Yeah. So again, the knowing what to buy, that's what we've been talking about a little here today. And finding a specialist if you can't find a doctor that's going to help you walk through those steps. Many cannabis stores will be able to do that. And the stigma that Mary is talking about, it's something that we all just accept that people who use cannabis are no different than you or I. And that the stigma about the stoner type reefer madness, yes, there's a few people. I mean, in college, I may have drank to get drunk, but I certainly don't do that now, right? I drink a glass of wine to relax. Most people using marijuana or any other cannabinoid are not using it to get blotto, psycho out of their mind. They're using it because it's beneficial for them in some way, whether highly medicinal or for relaxation. Again, I don't know how to tell you. I will meet you and walk you into a store. I think my staff's pretty amazing and welcoming. We have people that range from just 21 to almost 60 that work in our stores. We want, most people that are in cannabis, we want to help you. We want to make the lives of people better as we grow older. So again, I think the internet is the best place because you can get a feel for that company and then whether you'd feel welcome there. Does that help?
It does. And also, Annette, we've told everybody Highway 420 is open 7 days a week. Orenda CBD is only open on Wednesdays and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. However, if somebody went over to the Silverdale store on a Tuesday and they walked into Highway 420, can somebody in that store walk them over to Orenda CBD?
Often they can. It depends on how busy we are, but often they will walk you over there if you wanted to go see those products. And I'm always available. I usually work from home because I just enjoy my house. But if Sundays and Wednesdays don't work for people, I certainly will meet you and talk with you. And again, she's right. The staff at Highway 420 Silverdale will take you over to the CBD store if they're able to do that.
The other thing I would like to point out, I know we only have a couple of minutes, at the end of this seminar today, it is being recorded. I will send the link to everybody so you have it to review again. And at the same time, I will be including a coupon or a series of coupons that Annette put together for all of you that attended today. So you can have some savings at the Orenda store. When somebody goes to your store, do you also carry CBD products for pets?
We do, absolutely. And that's a great question. So that endocannabinoid system that we talked about earlier, our pets have the same one. Almost any animal that has a vertebrae, so your dog, your cat, your cow, your duck, all have an endocannabinoid system, and everything that CBD does for us, it can do for animals as well. A lot of people use it for arthritis, for seizures, and for calming of their animals. We get a run on products at 4th of July when the puppies are going crazy because of all the fireworks. So absolutely. Absolutely. All right, just a couple we'll run through really quick. This site right here, drugs.com, is another site that I love and recommend to people, not just for cannabis, but you can look on this site to find drug interactions or what a certain pharmaceutical drug or herb can do and how they interact together. So drugs.com. Testing, testing, testing. When I was talking about how you can go into a marijuana store and know that the products are highly regulated, they've been tested by law, but when you walk into a CBD store, or now if you walk into Hallmark or the Chevron station, you can buy CBD, but you have to have done your due diligence because nobody's looking out for you. You want to ask somebody to see the testing or that they've done testing. And it's testing not only about what's in the bottle, because you'll hear a lot of studies and media come out that says that CBD that you're buying doesn't have any CBD in it. It's very true. You want to know that it's been tested to prove that it has CBD in it, and also to prove that it doesn't have THC in it if that's something you're worried about, or that it doesn't have pesticides, heavy metals, molds, all of those things that we need to be concerned about in our plants, and certainly when we're using it for medicine. So it's up to you if you're going into those stores to make sure that the products that you're purchasing have been tested. And any site that you go on, if you're looking at a certain producer, a brand, they should have the information about their testing right on their website. And if they don't, probably not a product I would buy. Last but not least, be diligent, ask questions, do research, vet the source, not just the information. I'm available to ask questions. This is my direct email, my phone number. You can text me. I love cannabinoid medicine. I think it's going to change the world. It certainly has changed my life and many people I know. So thank you so much.
Annette,
Yeah.
few things, do you mail order? I'm in Port Angeles and I don't get down there. And I've studied a lot about CBD, the whole deal, and you have really brought it all together and verified things that I learned, which is wonderful. So do you mail order? Do you have a certificate of analysis to your CBDs? And that's it.
So yes, so I sell all different products, and I make sure that the companies I purchase from do that testing. So we have COAs, certificate of analysis, for all the products I sell. As far as shipping, this is something I didn't get. It's a very gray area as to the legalness of shipping. So currently on our website, we are moving in that direction. Topicals, I can ship without any problem. If someone's looking for tinctures and that kind of thing right now, I don't advertise it on the website, but if you call me or email me directly, I'll get it shipped out to you.
So you, I'm thinking that you are recommending overall the full spectrum